everybody, and welcome back to the Goat Tops Pod. I'm Alex, and I'm joined by my co-hosts EJ and Nathan. And today we are very excited to welcome Michael McClanathan. He's got a few different titles. He's an offensive assistant, offensive line, run game coordinator, and a recruiter for the Drake Bulldogs. This is Mike's third season as an O-line coach. He spent the first two seasons at Drake as an assistant offensive line coach. He began coaching at Drake in 2016 after a 4-year career as an offensive lineman for the Bulldogs. So, Coach, how are you doing tonight?
Doing really well. It's been a good day. Obviously, today's signing day, but I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Today is National Signing Day. So for you, I know you have a lot of different hats within the Bulldog program, but as a recruiter, what are National Signing Days like for you?
So, for us at Drake, from just a recruiting standpoint, signing day this early signing day has grown for us. So it's really more a celebration of kind of the work that's been done over the last year. We started gathering names for this class of 21, I would say February of last year. Of this year. So we are really wrapping up quite a long process where we started with thousands of names, and now we're down to, I believe we signed 20 something names today. I don't know what the exact number that I'm allowed to announce is, because it's still coming in, but it really is a celebration more than anything. So we had all the guys on a virtual signing day thing. We usually have something on campus for the support staff and the people in financial aid that helped us out. And it really is, like I said, a celebration of the work that's gone into it up to this point. But other than that, it's just gathering paperwork, which is always fun.
Paperwork's everybody's favorite thing.
Absolutely. Favorite things.
Yeah. So Drake competes in the Pioneer League, which is different than a lot of other conferences. Is you guys are not allowed to award scholarships. So how does this affect the way that you recruit? And I guess does that turn recruits away from the program, or how do you deal with that?
Yeah, so not offering athletic scholarships severely limits the type of kid that you can recruit. So Drake being, we kind of have to limit our scope to finding the right type of kid, the right type of athlete, the right type of family that values the same things that we would value, essentially. And those things really are pretty straightforward. I mean, first of all, Drake's a good school, so you got to value education, and you're going to pay for that education and for the football experience. So you have to value those things to a high degree, just like anything when you're making a deal, right? When you're recruiting anybody to do anything, it's what do we have to offer you, and does it match your value system? So when you put a price tag on those things and you don't allow it to be compensated for an athletic scholarship, then you really have to find someone that truly values what Drake can offer you. Now, our advantage in that is that Drake has a spectacular degree to offer you in return. And, I think we do a pretty good job of offering a spectacular football experience as well. And so, it does cut out some people from your recruiting that may really want to go to a school like Drake and they can't afford it. It's not the cheapest place in the country to go to school. The other reality is that we recruit against everybody in the country, whether that's Division I FBS scholarships or walk-ons, preferred walk-ons, Division II scholarships, NAIA scholarships, Division III kids, that are just looking for a great academic fit. We recruit against them all because we have a little bit of everything, but you got to be a great football player. You got to really value the education and the experience. And you got to want to accomplish something really special after you leave, because that's really where the value in the degree is. So you got to find that kind of kid. It's a really special blend of individual. And so we really focus more on a smaller group of individuals being intent with relationship building rather than casting a very wide net of guys, because you cast a really big net, you're never going to be intentional with somebody, but then you're going to end up with a lot of kids that just aren't who you are looking for in reality. So that's really the difference, I think, for us.
So when you are looking for that guy that fits the mold of a player that you want in the Drake program, how far outside of, I guess, the state lines of Iowa do you go? Is this something that because you are recruiting against everyone in the country. Are you looking for just any guy that fits that mold regardless of where they're at? Or do you kind of focus in on a certain area, like, kind of like a pipeline for guys that you've had in the past, like kind of a legacy at a certain high school, that type of thing?
So, like what we're looking for player wise, we operate mainly through high school coaches. So if you have relationships with high school coaches in an area, that's obviously a place that we want to stress, because we are looking for such a unique kid. We need somebody to really vouch for him. In fact, we won't ever offer a kid, or we won't seriously recruit someone until we get a head coach recommendation. And so maybe if we don't know that guy, we'll reach out to him to talk to him about that kid. But from a geographic standpoint, our team is coast to coast, as much as you could possibly be. I mean, I don't know the stats on how many states are represented, but it's a lot. Our bread and butter is the Midwest. Being an Iowa school, it's cold. We play smash mouth football. So you've got to come from programs that are okay, or you at least got to be okay with that and looking for that. Drake University's name carries a lot of weight within this country, coast to coast. So that helps us in recruiting. But as far as the academic requirements, the financial obstacles that we have, and the level of football that we want to play, and we want to win games. I mean, I didn't want to bring it up to some Iowa State fans, but a few years ago we went toe to toe with them when they were pretty good. And so we're looking for kids that can do it all like that. And so we do hit just about every state in the country. We don't prioritize states necessarily outside of the Midwest, except for a few, being Texas, California, Colorado. Some people would even call Colorado the Midwest these days. I recruit that state, so I got to throw it in there. But, our main bread and butter is, like, Illinois is probably the highest represented state on our team, more so than even Iowa. And then probably Wisconsin would be next, if I were to guess. But especially this class, dealing with COVID, it truly is a coast to coast class. And, and just the O-line the guys that I've signed, we've got California, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Illinois, and Colorado in the 5. So that's all over the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Colorado is right on that line. I love Colorado. It's a beautiful state. And I mean, the football, the high school football in Colorado, you're seeing it where with some of the guys committing to schools, is the football in Colorado is on the up, and it's awesome to see.
It is. It's been a lot better. When I started going out there, I've got family out there, so I've been going out there for years, but it's definitely on the rise. I think they're starting to do a better job of attracting better coaches and keeping them. That's been the issue in my mind, is them being able to hold on to good coaches in the high school level, because I think it's just difficult for those schools to pay those coaches what they deserve. And so they end up going to Oklahoma or somewhere else where they can make a lot of money, and who can blame those guys, right? They're looking out for their families.
Yes, definitely. So one question I just had to ask, I'm an Iowa State grad. We've got an Iowa fan in here, and then we've got an unbiased guy in here. If you had to pick between Iowa and Iowa State, who would you root for, and why is it Iowa State?
See, you're becoming a pretty good podcaster because you know how to phrase questions. So to give you a little background, I'm from St. Louis originally, and so I didn't really get the Iowa State thing when I got here in 2011 as a player. I was like, I knew Iowa was good, I knew Iowa State struggled, and so I was kind of like, who cares? Which is probably going to lose a lot of your 30 fans right now out of there is going to kill me with that. And any growth you get is going to get crushed by putting me on the podcast. But so after I've gotten to know the quality of the programs and the guys that lead those programs, I've become a big fan of both. And, we played Iowa State in 2018. That was awesome to have the opportunity to do that. So I'm really grateful for them to kind of give us the opportunity. And then, we got to go out to Iowa as an offensive staff and clinic with a couple guys on their staff. And I mean, Kirk Ferentz, I know he's been through the ringer, and he's really shown a lot of self-awareness and growth and things like that with what he's dealing with. But he was a class act, man. I mean, we didn't get to see him when we were there, but we were leaving the parking lot, and he chases us down, and he's yelling at us in the parking lot. He's like, "Hey guys, wait, I didn't get a chance to meet you." And so introduces himself, knew all about us, knew I coached the O-line. I mean, that really made an impression on me, a guy who's, synonymous with, the top end of coaches in this country, makes time for kind of the little stepbrother down the road when they just came out to see and learn some football. So Matt Campbell's done an amazing job at the program. The more I've done this profession, the more I become a fan of the people that that coach rather than just the programs themselves. And those two guys epitomize what it means to coach football, I think.
Definitely. And it was, I mean, I remember that game, and it was the ugliest weather conditions I've ever seen a football game played in. It was that extra week at the end of the year. And it was, I mean, I'd really never heard about Drake football before that, but just to be able to see what they're doing with the scholarship limitations and the kind of program that you all have down there, it was awesome to see. And I know we've got 4 good football teams in on the Division I level in the state of Iowa, and then we've got plenty more outside of D1. So just really kind of exciting to see the level of football that's being played in the state of Iowa.
Yeah, man, that game was a ton of fun. And, you're probably going to be like every other Iowa State fan that wants to blame it on the weather. But you got to forget that we had to play in it too.
Oh, yeah.
But no, I mean, that was a great game. I mean, I think we caught him napping a little bit. And, but yeah, that was a highlight. That was the only time I've ever lost a game and actually felt okay about it. Man, I'm driving home from Ames after that game, and I'm sitting there saying some pretty terrible words in my head, like, God, we had it.
Yeah.
That was a chance to kind of live forever in that upset, and we let it slip away, but it was still a great opportunity.
Absolutely. And just to clarify, I didn't mean it. It was only close because of the weather. I mean, it was like you had our number that day, and I mean, what an experience I'm sure that was. So that's awesome. I mean, it's still like, no matter the win or loss, I know, it doesn't matter if you don't get the win, but I mean, just what a day to live for the Drake football team, and something I know Iowa State fans and other fans, I know Hawkeye fans too, remember that day. So it's just an awesome experience, and great to see that being able to be played. And it was one of the only games that day too. So something that more people were able to experience than maybe another just week 1 game. One other thing, so about recruiting, I guess, do you have a favorite thing, and do you have a least favorite thing about recruiting?
I mean, a least favorite thing, that's hard to say. I don't know. I mean, it's such a critical part of what we do as college football coaches that, I mean, just like anything, there's ups and downs with it. I mean, it can be frustrating losing guys to schools. I mean, but that's a competitive streak of any coach. You don't want to lose out on a talented player somewhere, or, one of the more frustrating things is when we lose guys to PWOs, to bigger schools, because they usually come in late, and they're trying to grab good players, and I don't blame them for that. I don't blame kids for chasing their dreams, but it's a much different experience than I think what we preach. As far as the typical walk-on experience, I won't speak to what they do at specific programs. I don't know, but it's just a different thing for us than we don't have walk-ons. Like, you're a part of the program, you're a part of the program, and that's the way some walk-ons are treated. That's the way some walk-ons aren't treated. But my favorite thing, and I think this is everybody at Drake, is when we get a chance to form serious relationships with these guys that are going to come play for you. And so not only do I know a kid for the 4 or 4.5 years that he comes and plays for us at Drake, but I've known him since he was 16 or 17. I've sat in his living room. I've talked to his parents. One of my recruits' parents is texting me right now about a kid from Colorado he wants me to recruit. Like, these guys are become friends of yours. And so then not only do you know them when they're 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, but then when they graduate, I mean, you've seen them go from adolescent kid to a grown man. Like, I just graduated some of my first classes as a coach, and guys are getting married, guys are having kids. That's the coolest thing is, I mean, in recruiting, it's just the start of those relationships that you're gonna have for the rest of your life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think, what an experience that is to see. I mean, that when these people come in there, you see the pictures of kids when they're being recruited, and then you see their senior year photo, and you're just like, is this really the same person? So that's just absolutely crazy. Yeah. And I guess going off of that, so you played football at Drake for 4 years. How is there a way, or are there things that you can take from playing and being recruited yourself to use as a recruiter and as a coach, I guess?
Oh man. I mean, I think like having some experience to fall back on, especially when I was young, didn't know what the heck I was doing. Not that I have it all figured out by any means now, but I got hired at 23 to start coaching the O-line, and I was like, I felt confident in being able to work with the guys. Then they throw this whole other thing of recruiting at me. I'm like, what the heck am I doing? I gotta call these kids. How am I going to stay organized? So But, my recruiting experience with Drake was pretty awesome because I tore my ACL going into my senior year of high school. So I didn't play my senior year. So my recruiting took a nosedive. And Coach Creighton, who's the head coach at Drake at the time, Coach Fox, who later became the head coach, who was the O-line coach, they were one of the few people that were just honest with me in the process. They said, hey, look, Mike, you're not going to be probably the first guy on our board anymore. Doesn't mean we don't think you can be a player, but we got to prioritize guys that are playing. I said, that makes sense. Thank you for being honest with me. A lot of other coaches just ghosted me. I just stopped answering my phone calls. So that was difficult, but I really respected those men for doing that for me, and then ended up taking a shot on me late. I was the 41st recruit out of 41 at Drake. So for some perspective, we've taken very few classes over 30 since then. So that's how far down the list they had to go to get me. And they were really pulling out of the bottom of the barrel. But they took a chance on me and they believed in me. And then so I come into Drake and I tear my other ACL the third day of camp.
Jeez.
And I'm like, wow, what a horrible mistake you guys made by bringing me in. Like, I thought I was done. Coach Creighton sits down with me in the dining hall at camp. I don't even know if he remembers this, but he goes, Mike, by the time you're done playing football, playing here, you're going to have had a serious impact on this team. And I was like, yeah, right. No way, man. Like, but it meant a lot to me. And so that was really the way that I want to recruit is reflected in the way that I was recruiting. I want to be honest. I want to be upfront, transparent, and I want to be really recruiting the person, not just the ranking on the board. That's a lot more important to me. So if a kid does have a bad experience, in the recruiting process, I hope it's not for me. And I hope it's, hey, sometimes you have hard conversations with guys, say, you're just not good enough. You're not ranked high enough for us to get to you. Yeah. But you'd rather hear it early and hear it honestly than sit around and wait for that offer that ain't coming.
Yeah, and I think I'm guessing. I mean, I've never been recruited, but I'm guessing and hoping that kids love that honesty, because when you're beating around the bush and you're getting told things that maybe don't come to fruition, it hurts, because it might feel good in the moment to hear those things, but when it gets down and then they ghost you, like you said, I can't imagine that either. So
the reality of it is that I think most coaches understand this, but it's hard to keep it in perspective every day. Is the decision for us to take a kid is not nearly as big of a deal as what that kid is deciding to do for the next 4 years. So like the scales are a little bit unbalanced when we're talking about the gravity of the situation. I'm also a grown man. That kid is 17. He's hopefully got parental guidance, but he's got to know what he's getting into, and that can only happen with full transparency and a great relationship. That's why we don't offer guys without having a relationship with them. We're only going to offer guys we know, so that we feel good about it, and they're truly a right fit, and then we're a right fit for them, or we hope that we are.
Oh, definitely. Yes. That is a great philosophy. And I'm sure part of the reason that your team is so successful at Drake and gets the good guys to build a good program.
Yeah, so obviously this year has been a crazy year. How has COVID impacted recruiting for you?
It's been a crazy year, to say the least. So it's really affected kind of the ins and outs as far as the logistical side of recruiting. I would say the core of our recruiting, like I've been saying, is relationship based. So it's about our staff getting to know these individuals and their families. And when COVID happens and we can't have kids on campus, we can't do this, we can't do that, it really made us fall back on that pillar of who we are. And I felt like it gave us an advantage over maybe other places. So when you have all the things that maybe some bigger schools have, some flash, some this and that can recruit for you at times. We are relationship focused from the beginning. We've got great facilities. We've got great programs. We've got great this, great that. But why you choose Drake over another school is because of the people that are there and the players and the culture. So, that was the biggest challenge for us, was how do we get recruits to see it and really believe it, maybe in a virtual setting. And because we were constantly saying, hey man, the dead period is going to get delayed and delayed and delayed. And then finally they're like, it's going to April. So no one's getting any visits. And so, our biggest strength is relationships with the staff and our players. So then how is it that we got recruits to see and really see it as real? Because everybody preaches culture and family and that stuff.
Mhm.
How do you get kids to see it for real and really understand that we do practice what we preach, rather than just being one of those other, loud coaches that says, hey, we treat everybody great, we do this, we do that. How do you convey it as authentic? And I think kids realize that we are that way. I think it's hard to hide that. I think kids are smarter than people realize. So it came through over time. And, so I guess it changed everything, but it also changed nothing from us as far as our approach is the same. It's about identifying the right guys. We are authentic individuals at Drake. We don't have anything to hide. So I think that came through for us in the end. And as we're seeing the results today.
Yeah, that's a nice transition. Like, obviously, this has changed how everyone does everything right now. And just that you guys are following the same approach. Obviously, just can't meet them in person right now. That's awesome. So, being from Iowa, I have to ask, what is your favorite thing about coaching in Iowa or just living in Iowa in general?
Okay, so my favorite thing about living in Iowa now that I've been here for 10 years is definitely the amount of barbecue places per square. Um, as a former offensive lineman and fat kid at heart, that's been awesome. I've been a regular at Jethro's since the minute I stepped on
Heck
campus.
yeah, love Jethro's.
They know me way too well there. It's almost embarrassing when I go to people. They're like, "Hey, Mike," I'm like, "Yeah, what's up, guys?" No, but the reality is so being from the Midwest, it's Iowa. I think it embodies what the best things of the Midwest are. I mean, the people are incredibly nice. People go out of their way to help you, and it really hits you when we travel, because we travel coast to coast for games. Like, we go someplace else, like on the coast, and I can't tell you how many times I've been hit by a door because I'm assuming it's going to be held open for me by the person in front of me, because that's just what you do here.
Mm-hmm.
And so Iowa I think, epitomizes that. Like, people are great here. Like, you can talk to a stranger in the grocery store and they're not weirded out by it. Like, people nod at you and smile down the street. Like, I'm from St. Louis, and so there's some pretty rough parts of that town. And so, Drake, I think, used to have a reputation of being in a rougher part of Des Moines. It's really not bad. Like, it's a lot better than it used to be, that's for sure. And they've done a lot of things to build the neighborhood up. But I used to joke with my mom, like, man, even like the gangbangers are nice here, Mom. But like, you go and you walk down this, what people think is a bad neighborhood in Des Moines, and the reality is that people are even nice there. Like, it's safe. It's beautiful in the summers. The winters are rough, but I love being here. The people. It's just the people you surround yourself with make a huge difference in your life, and Iowa's got the best.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to ask, have you attempted the Adam Emenecker challenge at all?
No, I have not. So since I got done playing, I'm a health conscious O-line coach.
Okay.
And not that I don't pig out. Let's just not pretend that that's not really what happens. I mean, if I do pig out, it is at Jethers. I haven't done it. I really should, because for someone who's no longer 300 pounds, I can still eat sometimes like I am. So I should give it a shot.
Yeah.
I want to do the team one where you can get like a group of 3 or 4 people. I mean, I know some of the biggest eaters probably in the state with my old linemen. So you guys can put some food down.
It's good stuff. Yeah, they brought one to Ames, and I think I tried to go like once a month to get it's like buy one or half off wings on Thursdays, I think, and those are the best wings I've ever had. So
yeah, I know all the deals at Jethro's. I used to go tell you that the happy hour deals Monday through Saturday. So luckily I don't do that quite as much as I used to. But yeah, man, the Thursday night wing specials, and I think they do like Wednesday nights bone in and all that stuff, and it's packed and it's always good. I'm glad to see they made it through the pandemic whole.
Yeah.
So I just have a quick question kind of off that. So you see a lot of the like NFL offensive linemen and stuff that, once they retire, they slim down a ton, like that kind of thing. Like, for me as a Wisconsin guy, Joe Thomas is like the most recent example I can think of. And I was a kinesiology major, so I got a little bit of the like health and wellness in me. Like, what has changed? Like, what do you do differently now that you don't have to stay at, a playing weight to play offensive line in college football?
Yeah. So, man, first of all, Joe Thomas, awesome reference. That guy was like an idol of mine growing up. Big fan of him. But then, I was always a guy that had to eat to maintain. Like I always had to work to be that heavy. I played my last season. I think my last weigh-in was like 293 or something like that. And so I was pretty big. I'm like 200 on the dot now. And I've been as low as 186. So now I had an advantage. My mom's a nutritionist. So like I had a background in what was healthy. You know, I tried all the different low carb, keto stuff. That was good, but it was not sustainable for me long term. It was really more just balance your diet, consistency over sprints. And, you know, I changed the way I work out. I don't eat as much as I used to. I still eat a lot. I mean, you wouldn't, sometimes I eat too much still, but it's really just about making good food choices, man. And like when you really want to get down to like, once you get down to like the 230 range after you've been big, do you really want to get lean, or are you good with just kind of being a normal dude? And it's been a hobby of mine. Like I love to exercise. I love to work out. Like I've done fitness challenges and stuff like that. I've done Tough Mudders, and I'm competitive. So I don't get to compete on the field. So I can compete with myself in the weight room and do other stuff. And, you know, I think that taking on challenges and doing hard things, whether that's nutritionally, fitness related, mentally, whatever it is, I think that's important for you for people to do those and pursue those things. To make yourself the best you can be and whatever it is you want to do. It just makes you mentally stronger.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's kind of been you've seen that a lot with the players that do that. It's like the discipline, the focus that they've had from all these years. It's just channeling it into something different. But I think that's an interesting point you bring up, because a lot of people, I don't know how many people realize how hard it is to eat, you know, upwards of 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 calories a day. I mean, people probably just like, hey, that's great, eat a lot of food, but I think it's a lot more difficult than people realize.
Alex, I can tell you that from someone who's been swung over 100 pounds in his life, the gaining weight was way harder than losing the weight. You know, maybe there's genetic factors in there as far as like, you know, I'm meant to be smaller than I was bigger, but like there was a time where I was eating 1.5 pounds of meat 3 times a day with 3 large potatoes and, you know, all this food. I don't know what the calories were. We stopped counting. Like it was just so much food, and, you know, cooking it, preparing it on your own. You know, my family helped me, but then trying to work at the same time, because we're not on scholarship, right? So you got to have a job, and, you know, you're lifting weights at 4 a.m. so you can go to work, and then you got to eat 4 or 5 times a day. Like it sucks. And when I got done playing, it was a lot easier to just go, well, I'll just not eat 8,000 calories. I'll eat 3,000 calories a day. And I'm still going to work out because I like doing it. So, man, it was a lot easier.
Yeah, I'm sure just the relief of like, I don't have to prepare like 6 different meals today.
Yeah, like, oh man, I don't feel like eating, and I can do that. I don't have to. So that was nice. Like,
yeah, if it's okay, I'm going to transition to something that's not food because I'm getting really hungry. So, what is your favorite experience as a player and then as a coach so far?
Man, so as a player, I'll start with that because that's what I did first, I guess. All my truly favorite things that happened to me when I was in college playing football were off the field experiences with the guys that I became best friends with. Like, you know, I was a career backup at Drake too, which is probably why I feel that way. I was okay at best. I played behind a guy who was really good named John McMahon, who's, you know, an all-conference player multiple years in a row. But I was a little bit more interested in having a good time when I was a player than I was focusing on football. So I certainly maxed that out at times. But, you know, I think it's true. A lot of guys, the stuff you remember is the bus rides, you know, hanging out on the weekends with your buddies and that stuff, just like a lot of people, but you just spend so much time with these people that you truly become like inseparable. You know, some of the games that come to mind, I mean, I won I didn't win. We won 2 PFL championships while I was there. So those were really special, especially seeing seniors that you really looked up to graduate as champions. That was really special. We won, you know, one by beating Dayton at home in 11, and then another one by beating Jacksonville at their place in 12. That was an awesome thing. You know, we came back from a 24-point deficit in the fourth quarter to beat Marist one year. That was awesome. I mean, that was one of those games where it was cold in October and there was probably maybe 1,000 people in the stands total at Drake Stadium. And you're like, man, I wish more people had been around to see that, because it was one of the most incredible college football games I can never remember being a part of. And then as a coach, you know, the Iowa State game was pretty awesome because we go in there and everyone's talking smack about how it's like not even safe for us to play the game. And, you know, I'm starting a 255-pound fifth-year senior at center against, you know, freaking second team pack, you know, or Big 12 nose guard. And I'm like, all right, well, you know, this kid's a dog. Let's see him fight. And he does. And, you know, that was pretty awesome to see us go toe to toe with a really good team that year. But then, you know, like I said, man, like the best stuff is off the field. So, you know, guys come to your office asking you for advice, seeing guys graduate, especially guys that struggled. Like, man, we just graduated a guy, and you know his name, we call him Z. His name's Isaiah. Ken Schneider. He's a teacher now in the Des Moines area. I mean, the kid came in yeah, he's heard me say this before. He was soft when he was younger. I mean, he just wasn't really a physical player. As a fifth-year senior, he's a dominant physical center for us. I mean, 290 pounds and just laying the wood. So, like, seeing guys develop, that's the stuff. That's why you do it, man. And that's the best stuff. I mean, going toe-to-toe with the great teams is awesome because that's a lot of fun because we all love football. But seeing boys become men is the best.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the cooler things to see. I know, like, personally for me as a fan of like the Wisconsin football program, like they are a little bit different in that, like, you know, you see guys transition from, you know, freshmen, a lot of them redshirt, and then they go on, you see them as their junior and senior year, just the difference that the strides they've made, and how the coaching staff really prioritizes development for guys. And I think I see a lot of similarities in the Drake program, in that sense.
Yeah, I think that when you look at program, I mean, Wisconsin's obviously it's similar, but it's different, right? So, you know, they're going to land some big names and they're going to start young. And, you know, we've got guys that come in and just like them, you know, we got guys for our level that are really good that can start young, but I think when you see people grow from freshmen who you're like, this kid's maybe not going to be a player for us, and then he ends up being a great player for you. I mean, it solidifies all the values that you hear about in sports, right? Hard work, discipline, attention to detail, you know, doing the little things right every day will lead to success. It's such a great microcosm for everything that you can do. And that kid is going to be so well prepared for whatever he wants to do because those things are irreplaceable. Like if you have those, no matter what you decide to do, you'll be successful because the only factor then is time. Like,
Mm-hmm. And it's such a big transition too for guys that and I think this helps in the way that Drake recruits to the person, because the jump from being a star high school athlete to Division I college football, which is just leaps and bounds different.
No doubt. I mean, regardless of level, high school football and college football are just different. They're different games. I mean, the rules are similar, you know, the game looks the same on TV, just a little faster, but it feels totally different. And it's always interesting because no matter where you are, I think you always have some freshmen that come in with, you know, maybe a little high opinion of themselves. And seniors don't like that. And seniors hit a lot freaking harder than freshmen do most of the time, right? So there's exceptions, but, you know, there's a lot of chatting, and then we get to full pads, and it gets a little more quiet. And but then it's cool seeing those older guys like kind of humble a kid and maybe talk a little smack, and but then welcome him into the fold of like, all right, man, if you learn your lessons, you can be one of us.
So I guess what do you see, especially in like the offensive line room and working with those guys, like those kind of relationships between upperclassmen and underclassmen, and also like what are the day-to-day responsibilities of like an offensive line coach?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in our room, and I think this is something that we have, you know, since I've been at Drake for almost 10 seasons now, this would have been my 10th season, is we've never had a big division between upperclassmen and lowerclassmen. So we're very, I don't know what the magic is as far as why that is the way it is. I think it's because guys understand now they've been in this culture for so long that they don't want to be treated differently when they're young, or when they're older, they want to be just one of the guys. And what you get respect for at Drake is doing the work. So if you show up and you're lazy and you're late and you're constantly not living up to the standards, guys are not going to like you. It's not because you're a freshman. It's, you know, they won't like a senior if that's what he's doing, because they understand he's costing the team. He's, you know, frankly, he's going to get the whole group punished. And in our room, that's, you know, we operate on strikes. So guys get in trouble a certain amount of times. Like we're doing blocks or we're doing rolls or whatever it is that we have for punishments that day. And, So it's really more, it's about the process, and guys respect guys, even if they're not great players or if they're younger than them. If you're working, you can be part of the group. And then as far as my day-to-day responsibilities, man, it really just depends on the time of year. So during the season, my number one job is to prepare my group to play Saturday. So I got to get, it's more than just 5. You really need to get, if we're traveling, it's 8 or 9, maybe 10 ready to play. But so that's going through techniques and personnel for the other team. Usually starting Sunday morning, I start scouting personnel, D-line, linebackers, who's really good, who's productive, who we got to worry about on third downs, all that stuff. Then it's really more about structure of the defense. So, as a run game coordinator, it's my responsibility to bring to Coach Ware, our offensive coordinator, what I think is the best way for us to go about attacking this defense based on structure and personnel. And that really begins, again, Sunday, but also through Monday is really the big day for that. And then Tuesday and Wednesday, we start refining the plan as a group. Now, Coach Ware does a really nice job of including the entire offensive staff in the game planning process. So, he leans on me at times to help him with certain things, and it's his offense, it's his show, but he does believe in collaboration. So that's awesome to have someone who's an accomplished football coach kind of help, or I guess bring us along in those ways. But when it comes down to it, day to day, it's about our preparation. It's about putting our guys, especially the O-line, in the best positions to be successful. And then, we're also recruiting during the fall and doing that stuff. And, in the off season, it's heavy recruiting. Sometimes we're on the road. We haven't been, obviously, because of COVID, but there's never something to not do. You know what I mean? Like and then, in the off season, I take a lot of pride in trying to go out and learn things. I started this when I was really young, and, that I could choose to either make that an excuse for not knowing or a driving force to go learn things. So I wanted to be a guy that was always learning. So I always try to reach out to staffs and clinic. And great thing about the internet and COVID is that it did allow us to connect with a lot of people and learn a lot of football. So yeah, that's the 3 main areas, man. Prepare the O-line, recruit, and get better.
I know you said off season is mostly recruiting, but do you do any like pre-planning, like, like a general idea of who you're going to play the next year? Do you do any like just getting names, getting film, that kind of stuff in the off season too?
Yeah, so we do a little bit of that. Kind of break it into 2 different categories, I guess, for that. Really, the first one would be self-scout. So we want to be very aware of what we're doing, why we're doing it. Is it good? Is it bad? Does it fit our personnel? All that stuff, really evaluating at a deep level. And then looking at our conference opponents, anybody we know we're going to play, and say, okay, well, do they do anything that gave us a lot of problems? Are they, is this kid coming back for another year? And he was a dude. And, more is, it's really just, the way I look at it is it's really just a good check on your stuff to make sure that it's sound against everything. So if we're going to be an inside zone team, well, I've got to be able to run it against Marist 3-3 stack team. I got to be able to run it against Dayton's quarters 4-2-5 defense, and I got to be able to run it against, Morehead State's multiple front. So like, we got to make sure that all fits, and so that I'm not overlooking something. So we will go and look at, who we played last year, who we're playing next year, and it's about just diving in as deep as you can, and that way when you get to game week, you don't need a game plan built already. You should understand your own stuff well enough, and you should understand. Luckily, I've been in this conference for 10 years, man. So while things have changed, they don't change that fast. So I've got a good sense of kind of the teams we're playing in some ways. But every year you have to go back to the drawing board based on who you have, who they have, and what are they doing differently, and down to what is their 3rd and 5 plan, right? And do we have something ready for it? So yeah, we start big and kind of work our way down as we get closer to the game.
And I guess a good transition for that, because so right now, obviously, there was no football played this fall, and the Pioneer League is going to be playing football in the spring. Can you tell us a little bit about what the process has been like, delaying the season until the spring, and then I guess what preparing for spring football is like?
Well, the process, the biggest benefit of not being a head coach is that I don't have to be an administrator to that level. So I more or less kind of give feedback and receive information as far as what we're doing. Coach Steps, as our head coach, has done an amazing job of helping us deal with kind of the ever-changing landscape of college football for everybody. But especially when they decided to cancel the season, we had to retrace our steps a little bit and go back into, well, we were losing most of the senior class. We weren't sure exactly who we were losing. We were a new offense. So what are we trying to accomplish? When are we going to get a chance to install stuff? When are we going to get a chance to kind of figure out who we are? So then we really went into a spring mode, meaning that we did spring ball in the fall. So we had 15 practices in the fall, and with all the COVID regulations, I think everybody on campus looked at it as, we'll be surprised if you guys get more than a few in. We got all 15 in. Our guys did an amazing job being careful, as careful as 18-year-olds can be. But they did a great job buying into what we were saying. Coach Stepsis and the other coaches did a nice job of preaching the importance of what we were doing and kind of understand, hey, look, guys, we don't have a season, but we will play again. We don't know, because at that point we didn't know if we were playing in the spring.
Yeah.
It just got approved not that long ago. So trying to keep, 100 guys focused on this carrot that is, you don't know when you're going to get it. It was a challenge, but we work with a pretty great group of people that are self-motivated, self-directed, and we've got a culture that carried us through a pretty tough time. So credit to all the other coaches and our players and being able to kind of see that through. But now knowing that we're going to play, it's a little easier to focus. With guys not on campus right now, it's difficult, but I do daily check-ins with the O-line. So, at 6:15, we're doing our group mobility tonight together. So just to keep everybody together, talk as much as we can to stay in touch and, working towards the season.
Definitely. And I think it'll be fun too. More eyes on you guys when you do play. And that'll be kind of nice to get that exposure and maybe some more airtime on TV and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the more fans we can bring to Drake football, the better. I think we got a pretty special thing going on. So I hope people can experience it.
Oh, absolutely. Anything else, Alex, you or Nate, you want to ask Mike?
I'm really looking forward to you guys in the Pioneer League being able to play coming up in the spring. I think that'll be really fun. A little bit weird to watch college football in spring, but I think it'll be really cool. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Some cold springs in the Midwest for anyone that has never been to Iowa. It's a disaster. So, but it's a lot of fun
to bring some of those coast teams up here to Iowa to play, like Jacksonville and
the training camp in February will be definitely a different challenge as far as usually we're battling the heat, and this year we got to make sure everybody's got enough sweatshirts so they don't get frostbite or something. I don't know, but just another day in the life of college football, man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Mike, anything that you wanted to ask us or anything you want to bring up or plug for yourself or for Drake?
Nothing right now that comes to mind, guys. I don't know what our fan situation is going to be in the spring, but if we're allowed to have them, I'd love to have as many people out as you can. You guys would be more than welcome to come out and see us play, given the opportunity to do that. But this summer we're hoping to have a lot of youth and developmental camps as well. So that's a great opportunity to expose yourself to Drake football and learn what we're really all about in person and get a taste of kind of that relationship building that we do with our recruits and our players and see what we're really all about.
Absolutely. I think I need no excuses to come back to the state of Iowa. It's a beautiful state, an underrated state. They get a lot of crap just being corn people, but it's a beautiful state and awesome football there and good food, as we talked about earlier. Just wanted to give a couple of plugs of my own. Please, everyone, give a follow to Mike at McClanathan. I already butchered that. I apologize. McClanathan line. So OL. And then to the Drake football Twitter at Drake Bulldogs FB. And just follow them. Really excited to see them play in the spring and see some good football out of the state of Iowa in the spring. And really excited to see you and your team's growth. And we'll definitely be sure to watch those O-line. They never get enough love, but they're the most fun players to watch, just mauling people off the ball. So really excited for that.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.